So as I'm sure you figured out by now, we're going to be doing percent conversions. And we're going to start off converting from percent. And that'll make it a little easier when we have to convert to a percent. So if we wanted to convert from, let's say, 30% into a fraction, well, the word percent actually means out of 100, right? Per is out of and cent is 100. So what that means is 30% is the same thing as saying 30 out of 100. So that's how you could see the fraction. And then obviously we want to reduce the fraction if we can. And 30 out of 100 becomes 3/10. So no matter what the percent is, if you put that number over 100, you've now converted it to a fraction. So let's say that we have 77%, and we want to turn that into a fraction. Well, put it over 100. 77% is the same thing as 77 over 100. Then you look to see if you can reduce it, and in this case we can't, so we would just stop there. So as you can see, converting from a percent to a fraction, pretty simple. Now let's convert from a percent into a decimal. So going from a percent to a decimal, again, let's start off with, well, we use 32%. Okay, and 32%, you remember we converted to a fraction, we made it 32 hundredths. And 32 hundredths, again, this goes back to your other conversions that you've been doing for a long time, 32 hundredths is the same thing as 32 hundredths. So really, what we're going to do is we're going to take the 32 from the 32% and just divide it by 100. Now, hopefully you know when you divide a number by 100, in this case, if we had 32 and want to divide it by 100, we're basically going to move our decimal 2 places. We end up with 32 hundredths. Okay, and again, it's 2 places because there's 2 zeros and 100. So it's basically, we're going to divide it by 10, right? Divide it by 10, and then divide it by 10 again. So we get 32 hundredths. And again, any percent can be done this way. 4%, we want to convert that to a decimal. Move our decimal 2 places, and we get 4 hundredths. Really that simple. Okay, let's convert in the other direction now. Okay, so we'll stay with our decimal part. So let's say that we have, I don't know, let's say 15 hundredths. And we want to turn that into a percent. What we're going to do is we're going to multiply by 100. So this time we'll be moving our decimal to the right to make this number bigger. So 15 hundredths is 15%. If you had a number like, let's say 2 3 hundredths, that's going to become 203%. Again, it doesn't matter what the number is. You're always going to move your decimal 2 places to the right when you're going from a decimal to a percent. And let's say that we have something that looks like this. You have 31 thousandths. Well, again, move our decimal 2 places, and we're going to have 31 hundredths of a percent. All right, now let's convert fractions. Fractions sometimes are going to be a little more difficult. The simple fractions, you're going to know. Like if we had 4/10, we know 4/10 is the same thing as 40 hundredths. And any number over 100 is going to equal that percent. So this would be 40%. But what are we going to do when we have a number that's not out of 100? Like, let's say that we have, well, we'll do one that you know, 3/4, just so we could see how to do it. So what we'd have to do with this is we would have to divide it out. So 3 being divided by 4, and because we want it to be a percent, we have to move our decimal over 2 places. Over to here, and then we'll stop dividing. So 4 goes into 37 times. That's going to give us 28. 4 goes into 25 times. So 3/4 is going to be 75%. Okay, but what about something that goes even further? Let's say we have 5/8. Well, again, we're still going to divide it. It's 5 divided by 8. We want it to be a percent. 2 places. Stop dividing. So 8 goes into 56 times. 8 goes into 22 times. So it's 62 4/8, which is 62.5%. All right, this is conversions. Hopefully you learned how to convert.